Hey everyone, James Reeves with tfbtv. I'm here at the Knoll Attack Range in New Orleans, talking about the full conceal today. This isn't so much a review as it is kind of my general thoughts and opinion on the full conceal generally. This gun has been a lightning rod for controversy, but before we get into that, let's talk about what it is. Obviously, this is pretty strange, right? It's a Glock that's bent in half. Well, what you do, simply unfold it, it locks into place. Now you have a full, regular, non-broken Glock. So the argument is it allows you to conceal this gun in places where you might not otherwise be able to conceal an L-shaped hunk of metal and plastic. Not to mention the profile, the rectangular profile being easier to conceal also allows you to get more capacity. This is a Glock 19. Standard capacity on this gun is 15 rounds. With this magazine, this is a Magpul 21 round magazine, it maintains the same profile you would have if you used a 15 or a 17 round magazine, but you're allowed 21 rounds. When you deploy the grip, there, now you've got 21 rounds. But again, when it's concealed and you have the magazine pushed up, it doesn't take up any more space, even though you're getting an extra 6 rounds. The trigger guard folds under the dust cover and locks into place. That's what this little hunk of plastic is right here. It's like a detent of sorts. It has a metal trigger that, as far as Glock triggers go, is actually pretty good, but it also folds out of the way. You see this little spring-loaded hook here. This hook clamps into the top portion of the frame, and now the gun is locked into place. You can't unlock it until you press the very bottom of the hinge and then fold it back under the dust cover. As far as the magazine, right now the magazine's locked into place. You've got the magazine release button. Press the magazine release button, push the magazine upwards, and then that allows it to still be deployed. Right now it'll feed like this. You don't have to do anything additional. You don't have to slap the bottom of it to get it in. It will feed just by folding. So if you've got one in the chamber and you have a full magazine, there's nothing additional you need to do. Now, one thing I don't like is the magazine, there's only friction from the magazine release button that's kind of holding this magazine in place. Now, you can see you can give it a good shake before it starts to come loose. And if it does get loose, the magazine release is going to stop it, but I don't know how much I kind of like the magazine flopping around, but the important thing is you won't lose it. And let's say that even if it hypothetically does drop all the way to the magazine release, and then the mag release button catches the magazine, even when you deploy, the magazine's still locked into place and will still feed. So really that's more of a personal irritation than anything else. I just don't like the fact that the magazine can freely move, but it doesn't affect the performance or the reliability of the full conceal. As far as shooting performance goes, it's really no different than shooting a regular Glock. The metal trigger, the actual trigger pull itself, I do prefer over the standard Glock. However, I don't really like the trigger shoe, this flat metal trigger. I just don't like the way it feels. It would take some getting used to, but being able to fold it up and then deploy it like this, you need to have that kind of trigger, and it works fine in that purpose. I mean, it shoots like a Glock. Again, I'm not a big fan of this little metal tab, the way it feels, but the actual trigger pull itself, it's pretty good. Nice short reset, just like your standard Glock. So not like it's head and shoulders better than the Glock, but again, I don't really like the shoe that much, the little metal tab shoe. I understand they have to do it that way, so I'm not gonna hold it against them. But I mean, it shoots well. It doesn't feel flimsy. I mean, you've got, this thing is frickin' sawed in half, so you would think that it would feel wobbly. I mean, it locks up pretty tightly and there's not really play in the lower and upper half. This certainly can't last as long as a standard Glock frame because, for God's sake, it's sawed in half and it's held in place by a hook. But I mean, it's kind of confidence inspiring if you're using this for concealed carry and a little bit of range time. I'm not too concerned about this thing like breaking down or anything. So what do the critics of the full conceal say? Well, they say if you carry one, you're basically gonna die because it takes additional time to take it out, deploy it, and then you're hoping that the catch actually catches on the frame. So you can see that does slow you down a little bit as opposed to just drawing and firing, right? A fraction of a second, and probably even less whenever you practice more, but it does slow you down. That's the truth of it. And you got to make sure that that latch hits. If it doesn't, then you're really screwed. That's one other thing that needs to happen before you can actually fire the gun. Now, the first time I ran into the full conceal people was at TriggerCon in July of 2018 in Bellevue, Washington. And I got to handle a Glock 43 and I thought to myself, hey, this is pretty cool. And then the guys that worked for full conceal, they were showing they had practiced deploying it. And just like anything else, like a new holster or a new gun, you've got to practice it. So I suppose theoretically practice would make perfect and it wouldn't be that big of a deal or take that much additional time for you to deploy the gun. Really, that's the main criticism, and I see it. It's one other thing for you to do when you're in crisis mode that requires fine motor skill, and it's going to take time off your draw and your firing versus just having a standard Glock 19. So I get the criticisms and I think they're valid. On the other hand, if for some reason a folded up Glock 19 is the best way that you can carry, then I suppose go for it. Although I can think of a lot better ways to carry than with the 19. And where I'm about to go here is the dichotomy between the 19 and the 43. I assume you guys are here for my opinion about the full conceal, and I'm going to give it to you. As far as the Glock 19 goes, I'm not sure that I completely see the point. There are going to be people out there who say, hey, look, that makes a lot of sense to me. The way this Glock 19, the way it folds up, the profile when it's folded up, it works better for me. I don't know. If you want to put it in your cargo shorts or your cargo pants pocket or something like that, it would work where another Glock 19, a standard Glock 19, wouldn't. So I get that, but at a certain point, I'm not sure that there's much you can do to conceal this Glock 19 any better than a standard Glock 19. So I'm not really convinced of how useful the full conceal Glock 19 is. However, I will say that I was impressed with the full conceal Glock 43. In fact, I even asked for a Glock 43 for this review specifically, and I'm kind of pissed that what they sent me was the full conceal Glock 19, which is substantially larger. You can stow the Glock 43 when it's folded up like this. Now the Glock 43, if you don't know, that's the single stack 9mm Glock. It is the smallest 9mm Glock that Glock makes. It's an inch thick, very small, easy to conceal. In fact, here's my Glock 43 right now. You can see the gun, the profile is a lot smaller, it's a lot thinner, and to me, this lends itself to full conceal's concept a lot more than the Glock 19 does. Again, I feel like there are more places that you could conceal a Glock 43 that's folded in half than you could a Glock 19. Even like this thing is a big hunk of gun. With the Glock 43, I mean, it's barely bigger than a cell phone, and you could genuinely stow it in your pants pocket where you probably couldn't with the standard Glock 43. In fact, I'd even love to see full conceal take on the Glock 42. So that said, the same general criticisms apply to the 43 as they would the Glock 19. That is, that you're going to take more time to deploy it. Even if it is just a fraction of a second, you are going to take more time. And then that's one more thing for you to do before you can start shooting. And you better hope that this device doesn't fail. So those are the main criticisms, but I see a lot more positives weighing in favor of the Glock 43 or the Glock 42 than the Glock 19. And remember, with the Glock 43, you're talking 6+1. So that means you get 7 rounds, 6 rounds in the factory magazine, plus an additional round in the chamber. With the full conceal version, remember, we talked about how you can use a larger magazine in the full conceal and you still have the same pocket profile, we'll call it. With the Glock 43, you can get a 9-round magazine. So you get an additional 3 rounds. in a package that's a lot easier to conceal than the standard Glock 43. So again, more points in favor of the Glock 43. I really wish they would have sent me one of those to test out instead of the 19, because I'm kind of ho-hum on the 19. Hopefully there are people out there who are watching this who say, hey, look, this 19, it's really shaking my tree. I like this gun. But I feel like there aren't a lot of people saying, hey, I need a compact or a full-size gun that I can fold in half and carry around with a big honking 21-round magazine, which is going to be pretty heavy, fully loaded. I feel like there aren't as many people saying that about the 19 full conceal versus people who would say with a 43 full conceal, hey, I'd really like something that I could literally jam into a coat pocket or to a pants pocket, but then have 10 rounds of 9mm at my command. Also guys, these aren't cheap. You're looking at $500 for the operation. If you want to send yours in and have them do all the work, that's going to be about $500, and you're looking at about $1,000 for one of these from the factory. So they are not cheap. This has been a real hot point of controversy, but what it all boils down to is if you're one of the few people out there who's got $1,000 to blow in a carry gun, who needs something lower profile than a standard Glock 19 or Glock 43 or Glock 42, and you're comfortable with training and a way to deploy this, and if that's what it takes for you to carry, screw it. I don't care. I really don't care. I don't see what all the anger is. Everybody is so pissed off at this gun. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. Whatever. I really don't care. Would I own this one? No. Would I own the 43? Maybe. But all in all, I think full conceal, let them do their thing. Who really gives a shit if this is what they're doing and this is what it takes for people to carry? They've certainly been popular. I think there's even a Drake lyric that refers to the full conceal Glock 19. So whatever, looks like they're being successful, notwithstanding the people that hate them. So anyways, and they're a bunch of cool guys. I gotta say that. Really cool guys, some of the best people I've ever met. A few of them are even from the area. So, you know, great guys, whatever, more power to them. If you people hate them, you're more than entitled to hate them. You can hate anything you want. This is guns and we have free speech and it's awesome. So, you know, if you want to hate it, I don't get it, but go for it. Thanks to our sponsor, Ventura Munitions, provided all the ammo for this test, and thank you to Blue Alpha Gear. Thanks again to Nola Tech Range for hosting us. Guys, you want one of these sweet t-shirts, look at our Teespring shop right below our video feed, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next week.